Classic. Yeah. And I just set it down here. Doesn't matter. Is that distracting?
Oh, I didn't even grab the thing.
Grab the thing?
Sorry, the pit stop that I have to make. I have
to, that's what I was excited for.
Yeah, no, I have to swing by my in-laws in the East End because I gotta pick up something from my father-in-law, and I said I'd bring by his books that he loaned me, and I left them by the door, and he didn't fucking grab them.
Ah, yeah, classic. Leave it at the door.
Yeah, I'll leave it here so I don't forget.
Yeah, right, straight out the door.
Yeah.
Does it feel like we're going to see a masterpiece? Because I've heard this is a masterpiece.
Oh, really?
So the vibe that I'm getting is like, before I went to see Wall-E in theaters, we're like, okay, we're going to see this movie tonight. It's supposed to be pretty good.
Allegedly a masterpiece.
Yeah, yeah. And then I watched it, I'm like, yeah, that was good. I had my expectations high, and it cleared it.
I'm excited to see Robert De Niro in something like big and serious.
Yeah, because
I feel like it's been a while.
Well, I saw on TikTok that he once got paid like $11 million plus a trip to Tahiti, plus like a 7-night stay in a 5-star hotel room, plus a helicopter escort. Somebody was like, why not just pay him $12 million? And people were like, for tax reasons.
For this movie?
No, this was like a $12 million movie, $10 million of which went to his paycheck. It's like called No Safe Paradise or something like that.
That's funny.
Yeah.
1 second.
Yeah.
You're right by the door.
Mm-hmm. Okay, this is the Film Gamer Podcast, Season 3, Episode 7. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Insert here. You know, another exciting thing is that this is the second Brendan Fraser movie in a row we're going
Oh, Brendan Fraser's in this?
Yes.
Is he fat?
Yes.
Oh, great.
He's not as fat as he was in The Whale. That would be absolutely stunning if he showed up like The Whale in this movie, like 2 hours in.
I have actively told people not to see The Whale.
Yeah.
They're like, really? Like, his Oscar, I thought it was really good. And I was like, it's not. And this is why.
It's part of my thesis in the review I just wrote for American Fiction that I went to see The Whale, and in my opinion, the movie works even though it sucks. It's like, in my thesis is like, because Brendan Fraser believes that he's in a good movie, and the director believes that he's in a good movie, that it doesn't matter that it's not a good movie.
They try that much harder.
Yeah, because it's like, say something that you believe in, that it's honest, even if it's like seems overly simplistic, and you'll succeed. And then the movie American Fiction is just kind of about a guy who like lowers himself to write something popular, like a black book about black trauma, and he's like an intellectual, and he's like, F this, I don't want to do this, and stuff. He's like, fine, I'll make a joke, I'll give them like the blackest book they've ever read, and he fills it with like gang violence and spelling mistakes and stuff, and this shoves it in and sends it into the publishers, and it ends up becoming like a massive hit, and the whole movie is him like, I cannot effing believe this garbage that people like what I wrote. Yeah. So it's like, you know, be truthful, I guess, is the takeaway. And
wow.
Yeah. And I also hear Brendan Fraser is terrible in this movie, actually, but he's only in 2 scenes. Okay. But it's like, be forewarned, you know. It's like,
this is the creation of the CIA, right?
It's about it's weird. I believe it's about like the CIA goes and investigates these serial killings that are happening
on native land.
Yeah. And Robert De Niro is like the Godfather, probably directly responsible for it, kind of thing. And maybe my guess is that Leo like does his schwoozy thing and schmoozes the local lady, and maybe it like helps a union between them or something. Okay. And then they like systemically like just destroy any leverage they have over the land, because they're like Indians and they inherit the lands that strike oil. That's my guess.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a true story that I've heard like 10 times. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like it'd be fascinating, and then I forget it immediately.
So you didn't read the book?
No, I did not. I did not read.
Have you read a lot of books that you've watched the movies first?
Very few. I'm trying to read Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes now, and I'm on chapter 1, and then I just like...
I'm on chapter, so you just started it.
Yeah, and it's like, ooh, a new featurette on the movie. I'm excited. The production design, exciting. And then I'm like, I read a chapter of the book, and I'm like, this is good, but I'm just like, I'm like David Fincher, where they told him, it's like, hey, you should read this Fight Club book, and he was like, I'm not interested. I don't read books, you know, which is like the most anti-intellectual thing you can kind of say. But people are like, you should read this one. And so, like, the guy who wrote this also had another book adapted, The Lost City of Z, that me and my dad saw in theaters.
Is that a kid's movie?
No. You're thinking of, like, it's like City of Ember or something like that. Like, there's a Lost City of blank, and then there's the Lost City, the Sandra Bullock movie. This is, like, based on a true story from the 1920s about Percy Everett, who goes and believes he found this city called Zed. And Brad Pitt produced it. It was like an independent movie, and I knew, based on the director James Gray directing it, all of his movies are like kind of boring and contemplative on purpose, so like drama, themes, philosophical, not much action. And I just kind of wanted to say to my dad, I'm like, Dad, I know you like read the book and it's like really fascinating, but I don't think this is gonna be like that. And we went, and my dad's like, that is the most boring movie I've ever had to sit through. It was like torture, and I could feel it on it. And yeah, so David Grann wrote that book, hugely acclaimed, scoops up the rights, they make it, it's an acclaimed movie that doesn't make much money, and then it's like, what else you got, David? And then he's like, well, I got this Killers of the Flower Moon, and people are like, oh, the book's acclaimed. Where there's a bidding war, auctions off, Paramount wins the rights. They get Leonardo DiCaprio involved, Martin Scorsese involved.
We're winning.
Yeah, the budget is climbing. It's climbing high. Paramount is like, oh, okay. And then Eric Roth writes it. He wrote Forrest Gump. You know, he co-wrote Dune. He's like a good... Dune? Yeah, he's a good screenwriter, won an Academy Award, and they're like, this is awesome.
For what?
For what do you mean?
He's won an Academy Award for what?
He won an Academy Award for writing Forrest Gump. So he can write long epics is the thing. And the studio is like, this is our guy. It's like a police procedural about the CIA or FBI or something in the 1930s investigating murders.
So this is skeleton.
Yeah. This is pretty cool. Let's do this. It's going to be Leo. It's going to be a big blockbuster. And then they meet with the Osage County natives, and they like...
Of where it's based?
Yeah, and they're like for consultancy. And they make a few recommendations that they don't have to follow. But Leonardo DiCaprio...
Is it just checking a box?
Yeah, but Leonardo DiCaprio says to Martin Scorsese, like, I do not think that there is a soul to this movie the way we're doing it. It's like a basic police procedural that we are doing here. We need to make it like something different. So Leonardo DiCaprio was originally going to play the FBI investigator, and he decides both that he might be too old. I think the investigator's name in the movie is like Tom White, and he's like, I need to play Ernest Burkhart, who's like the guy who married the girl. And he's like, it needs to be kind of like from the family point of view. The soul of the movie is like the Indian people. We need to have like them kind of be a part of the story more, because otherwise it's just like, you know, Mindhunter or something. Like it's just it's a standard police
go here, get that.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, we need to change it. So they go to Paramount and they're like, good news, like we changed the book, we're changing the script, it's gonna be a lot better. It's just gonna, you know, cost a bit more money. And they're like, okay, well, you know, we're getting up to $200 million here, and this is the script that we agreed to back. Okay.
The native people.
Yeah, they go to Paramount. Paramount is like, we backed a police procedural story. That's what we can sell. That's what we're very excited about. And the script is written.
Yeah.
And they're like, this is what we signed up for. And they're like, well, like,
how long is the movie, by the way?
It's 3 hours and 26 minutes.
Alrighty.
Yes, it's a very, with no intermission. Back in the old days, a movie like this would have an intermission at like 2 hours, Gone with the Wind.
Yeah, I was gonna say, decided. Like, I feel like if you go over 3, you should have one.
Yeah.
Just to like take a piss or something.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, longest movie I've ever seen in theaters, which this will break the record of, was 3 hours and 20 minutes at the time.
Yeah.
Extended to 4 on DVD, but like I had to really go to the bathroom, and I thought it was right at the end because they had put the ring in there, and I really had to go to the bathroom, and I'm like, it's almost done, and you know there's like 4 separate endings to that movie. So it's like when the Screen Junkies made that joke, it's like Peter Jackson loved Middle Earth so much he didn't want it to end, so there's 4 separate endings that make it very hard to hold in your pee. I'm like, that's me.
That's me.
Yeah.
I was there.
Yeah. So they make this movie, and they're in Paramount's like, okay, like we cannot give any more money to this movie. Like
we've hit the ceiling.
Yeah. Bring in somebody who will fund it, and of course, Martin Scorsese had just made The Irishman with Netflix, and that movie's super fucking long.
Yeah.
Pardon my French. And Netflix and they're like, so let's go to a streamer and do it. And Netflix is like,
streamer.
Yeah. So like Netflix, Amazon, that sort of thing.
Tubi.
And they're exactly. Yeah. Who's owned by Fox now. And they're
Fox owns Tubi?
Yes.
So that means Disney owns Tubi.
No, this is the Fox News. When they separated, Disney was like, we're not taking Fox News. That's like cancer. Like we're taking everything else. Keep your Fox News empire, you evil Murdochs, because it's a family based off of Succession. Anyway, so they held on to the Fox News empire and all the newspapers that they held, and they were like kind of 2 separate companies.
Okay, so Fox News owns Tubi.
Yeah, and so that company, they're called News Corporation. They own Tubi. And this was like their first getting back into the media thing after they sold off 20th Century Fox and stuff. Okay. But back to the movie.
What's this?
Roadside stop check.
Oh, okay.
I presume. But or it could be an accident.
I was going to say probably an accident. Usually it's just police if it's a roadside.
You know, I did mental hoops on that date. That didn't happen, of like how much I should drink, if I drank, if I picked her up, if I get to a roadside stop. My high school law professor always told me, like, if you have 1 drink and you get pulled over by the cops and they ask you how much you're drinking, just say no.
Yeah.
Like, just say no, okay, thank you, on your way.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I can't, like, why?
Because if you say yes, now they have to, like,
oh,
start
fuck,
something.
yeah, here we go.
And if you just say no and you look fine and you look decent, okay, move it along. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Because basically,
like, they look at you and you're like, okay, thanks. Like, you barely get a sentence in if you say okay, they wave you, because they can tell, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think those things are trying to catch the stupid people. Yeah. I remember, like, my cousin Alex, he was talking about, he's a carpenter, and he was talking about how they announce surprise drug tests, or like they give very short notice on the drug tests. And he was like, man, because, like, you know, they have like carpenters from like all over, you know, get their paycheck, blow it on hookers and blow, and then live off ramen noodles for, you know, a week and a half until they get paid again.
Yeah, sounds like fun.
Yeah, so he was just like, it's a lifestyle, like people do it. And I was just like, okay. And he goes, yeah, so like one time, because now he's like a business agent for the union, it was just like, why don't we just do a surprise drug test? And he goes, they're like, look, we know what they're doing. He goes, like, we give them short notice so that the smart ones can stay home and say they're sick that day. We just catch the stupid ones. Yeah. So I was just like, fuck. And he's just like, yeah, it's the stupid ones that show up even though they've been told they were going to get tested. And then you see them in the parking lot, realize, and turn around. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, shit. So he's like, yeah, we were looking to catch the stupid ones.
So, fair warning about this movie, they decided, okay, we need a streamer. Apple comes in. Apple, you know, phone maker.
Is Apple TV any good?
No. The only good thing they have is Ted Lasso, and in my opinion, the final season falls off. And that was even made by Warner Brothers, so it was going to go to HBO Max. And because Warner Brothers is kind of stupid, they're like, wow, we don't have any streaming offerings coming off in the future. No. And so then they're like, oh, okay, so they take it to Apple TV. 6 months later, HBO Max in the US comes out, and they're like, wow, you know, that Ted Lasso thing that we sent to Apple was a really big hit. We probably should have held on to that one. But that, like, basically is what the only thing of note that, like, Apple has. I get it because my brother pays for it or something, and he likes The Morning Show, a show that the internet tries very hard to convince you is good. And by internet, I mean just, like, really rich people who do podcasts and have nothing else to listen to, they're like, oh man,
The morning show's the best.
it's amazing. The first season is terrible, but like once you get through that, you know, so Apple is like, you know, money is no object to us. We're $1 trillion company. We have won Best Picture for Coda. We will be your co-signer. We will co-finance this with Paramount. So they basically make a deal where...
So this is a Paramount-Apple combo.
Yeah, rare combo. They make the idea... It was similar with The Irishman, where Paramount, again, funded it up until a certain point, and then Martin Scorsese is like, I need to get this picture done. It's in my soul, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, it's too expensive, Marty. I don't think it's a good idea to use de-aging the way that we're doing it. You know, it doesn't seem viable to us as a sane studio. And then Netflix is like, well, we like credibility. We need credibility for films. Let's fund this. So they basically were in bed together and they co-funded it along with Paramount. And then this is Martin Scorsese's second movie in a row where he's got co-funding from a streamer for a movie that cost $200 million.
So Paramount put up $200 million. How much did Apple put up?
It's sort of like Paramount agreed to back, let's say it was like split down the middle, like half. And what
like 100 and 100 or like 200
like,
and 200?
Yeah, think like 80 and 120 or something, because it was basically like Apple bought out Paramount's stake in it. Like they're like, we will, in exchange for like getting the rights to this movie, we will like basically pick up the cost of what you've already put into here, and then we will and we will fund the rest of the movie because you already have taken it like 3/4 of the way and it's filming and that sort of thing. Sorry for the knee thing. Anyway, so Paramount is like, oh, okay, well, like, what if we distribute this like in theaters? Like, you don't like going to theaters, you know, everything's straight to streaming. And they basically, I don't know how they convinced them, but Paramount is like, let us do our thing. We will distribute this movie in theaters for you, and you fund us. So Apple funds Paramount to distribute this movie in theaters, is what they're doing. And they were originally going to open it, like, do a limited release, like most art house movies, October the 6th, and then go wide, like, 2 weeks later. And then Oppenheimer comes out, is a big hit. Yeah. And then they're like, oh,
we have to get that breathing room.
That's like a 3-hour drama that went open wide release in IMAX. Let's just do that. So this is like the first weekend that it's coming out, opening wide in IMAX. The only question is are we going to hear Taylor Swift coming from the sides because of, you know, the Taylor Swift movie is out as well? You know, that's the question. I don't think so, because we're in Kingston and it's not like super loud and that kind of thing, but that's the deal.
Like,
yeah,
a total blow away. I had no idea.
Yeah, the you know who wrote the Criterion essay for that movie was Martin Scorsese. Did an introduction on the director's cut of it, like the 3-hour director's cut.
I don't understand. What do you mean? He wrote an essay?
Like, he wrote an essay. If you buy the special edition from like the A24 shop of like the director's cut of Midsommar, then there's like, you open up the DVD and there's an introduction by Martin Scorsese being like, Hereditary was a masterpiece of a picture, you know, and then he's like, in this film, wow, I liked it, you know. Okay. and so it's just kind of like a funny little thing, because
one thing I remember from Hereditary was when they go into the little tent.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like this like sloppy JPEG that like floats into the tent.
Yeah.
And I was like, did I just see that? Was that supposed to happen?
Yeah, it's like eerie.
Yeah. It was like this weird Orbeus float.
So the night I went to see Midsommar was on August 9th, 2019, which was like the 50th anniversary of like the Tate murders, and I only know that like retroactively because if you look up on, you know, the screening room Google Maps, then my picture of me and my ticket is on there. But like the vibe there, it was like sundown and a coyote. I had to stop because a coyote was crossing the street, and there was like thunder, but there was no rain. And I'm like, this is a vibe from like a movie. And then it was like an uncomfortable experience watching it because there was a bunch of miscreants there. Miscreants, yeah. So what are your expectations for Killers of the Flower Moon?
I don't know. I don't know much about it. Like, I watched
Yeah.
the trailer, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like the cast definitely, like I said, I think it's going to be, I'm interested to see Robert De Niro in a big role.
Again.
Yeah, like, I feel like it's been a while.
Yeah. I can't even recall when's the last time I saw De Niro in a movie, like, in the theater. I guess it would have been
Like Irishman,
American Hustle or something. But that was
Yeah.
like a small... I haven't seen him in, like... I cannot recall ever seeing him in, like, a starring role
But, like,
in a movie in theaters in my lifetime.
he did The Irishman, which is
Yeah.
also over 3 hours, but it went straight to Netflix. So,
Yeah.
like, does it count? I mean,
No.
kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
Right? So, like he did it.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
it's there, but it's not, you know.
I haven't seen The War with Grandpa, which dethroned Tenet at the box office, which is about him fighting with his grandson over
Oh.
a room. That's the whole plot of the movie.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing it. It's sad.
I just thought it was funny that movie was like #1 at the box office and dethroned Tenet, because there was nothing else playing, and Tenet had already been out
Yeah.
for a month.
I was
But-
gonna say, like, what was the last movie I would have saw Robert De Niro in theaters?
Or even like kind of in general, like a
Yeah.
new movie
Yeah.
that he was in. Like, when's the last time you were excited for a new... Like, De Niro is a paycheck guy. Like,
Now,
he
is
had,
it because like his wife spends so much money?
he lives such an expensive lifestyle. There are TikToks on it of, like, he owns a restaurant, so that's, like, an income there. But, like, he's divorced, I think, twice. He has a lot of, like, alimony. He has, like, quite a few kids. And he has, like, such an expensive lifestyle. He has, like, 2 houses, like, 2 townhouses in New York, and then, like, 2 in LA, and then he pays rent on. And then he also has alimony, and then he has, like, alimony from, like, another wife or
So
something.
He needs to keep it
Yeah,
up.
so, yeah. So he'll do these paycheck movies, and that they explain in Hollywood. It's like, that's how you get people. It's like, you have an actor who, like, they need the money, so
Right.
then maybe they have to do a movie that they wouldn't otherwise to pay the bills.
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
take a big paycheck movie.
But it's like, because their lifestyle is so expensive, or they need money quickly, or they need it for an investment or a restaurant or something folded. It's
You
so
need a quick 10 mil.
yeah, or they want to do, or the other one is like they want to do something for their kids or that their kids can watch. So it's like, that is a way that you can get actors who are like, I have no interest in this material, but I'll do it for these reasons.
Right.
For me, I think about like the last Martin
Because
Scorsese.
there would be people that would go just to see it because he's in it.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. There are so many people who are like, oh, Robert De Niro, like,
It must be good if
yeah,
he's in it.
yeah. Ignoring the last 20 movies he did.
Yeah.
But, like, I think about what's the last, like, because, you know, Martin Scorsese is such a big deal that it's like, what's the last Martin Scorsese movie I saw in theaters? I saw Wolf of Wall Street in theaters. Did you?
No, I didn't see it in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
Irishman didn't see it in theaters.
Yeah.
What other Martin Scorsese?
Mine was The Departed, and I saw it with my...
2006?
Yeah. So I was 12, and I saw it with my mom's friend, who was, like, really into
Did
it.
you go to the theaters to see Hugo?
No, Hugo was one where it's like, I don't know, the CGI in Martin Scorsese movies is not good. So when I saw the trailer for that, I'm like, oh, it looks interesting, but I don't, like, it looks too much like a kid's movie. It's fascinating that Martin Scorsese did this, because, like, people say that his movies are more than gangster movies, and that's true, but, like, anytime he wanders outside of that genre, it's like, oh, you're kind of in the sea, Marty, you know, like, this is different for you. Like, I totally expect Killers of the Flower Moon to be like,
What did you do
like
before?
Robert De Niro is probably like a gangster, and Leo is like
Based on the trailer, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
He's like getting mad at Leo for like not doing what he says.
yeah, and that's totally the
Okay.
vibe, and I'm totally up for that.
So what did he do before Irishman?
So he did Silence, which I planned on going to see.
Didn't see that.
That was a movie he planned to see. A bunch of people were in it, and then the cast fell apart, and then he did it with Andrew Garfield and Adam Driver and Liam Neeson. And it was supposed to be like Benicio del Toro, Sean Penn, and I forget who else. But Diego Luna or Gal Garcia Bernal or something like that. But he wanted...
I went to Guillermo del Toro. I was like, the director?
Yeah. But like, guy who worked with Guillermo, Gal Garcia
Okay, so what was
Bernal.
before Silence?
Shutter Island was the last... That was the last studio movie
I
he
think
did.
that's overrated.
And it's listed in my review of American Fiction, where Martin Scorsese, doing the press rounds for Killers, said, like, I had such great success with Leo on The Departed. We decided to do Shutter Island. I regret that. We should have done Silence. And like Shutter Island, he thinks Shutter Island was a mistake.
Yeah, I don't think it was that good. And like I feel like online people talk about how it's one of his greats, and it's not.
Yeah, it's not. Like most people guessed. Like, you
like
see the trailer and you guess the twist halfway through the trailer.
Yeah, and I mean, like, and if nobody told me it was a Scorsese movie, I would have never guessed.
Yeah, you would. I found it so, but that's why I found it so weird, because it's like so bizarre. Outside his genre. Yeah. The other thing, what makes it weird, is that it's the only good Scorsese movie with, like, good special effects. Like, the special effects are good in that movie, but it's, like, not at all, like, so, like...
Was that his first with Leo?
No, so the first we did with Leo was Gangs in New York, and basically made up Leo's career. So he did Gangs in New York, then he did The Departed, then he did Shutter Island, then he did Wolf of Wall Street, and I'm missing one in between that they did. Oh, The Aviator they did in between The Departed and...
that was Scorsese too?
And Gangs in New York. Yeah, that was another one where... It was like Michael Mann was supposed to do it, and then Martin Scorsese ended up doing it. I watched it for the first time recently, didn't like it. I'm like, Marty, this got away from you. You know, I get the old Hollywood stuff, but it's like, to me, he kind of, it's interesting that he's seen as like such a stylist, because I don't feel like he has like Goodfellas has a style, but to me it's like very basic, very like cut up. You know, it's like rock and roll here, harsh cut here, long take here, tracking
shots.
That's what
was going on at the time.
And super long. Yeah. So he's very much like greasy, dirty mafia movie. Yeah. But you know, one of my favorite movies of his is Taxi Driver, and that's not really like that. Although it's within the crime genre, because it's like Robert De Niro attacks a pit.
Yeah, he's like a criminal.
And then another one that's not at all...
Raging Bull.
Yeah, Raging Bull I saw for the first time recently. Didn't like it. Thought Joe Pesci was great. Yeah. Robert De Niro, you know, transformative and stuff like that, but I didn't think it was great as its reputation was suggested.
What about Cape Fear?
So Cape Fear, I also saw recently for the first time, and that was the one time where it's like, this is totally outside Martin Scorsese's genre. It doesn't seem like a Martin Scorsese film at all. 10 out of 10 Scorsese, I wouldn't say...
gangster Scorsese.
No, I mean, like, not 10 out of 10 Scorsese movie, but it's, like, it's one of my favorite Scorsese movies. I thought it was, like, electric. Like, the fact that Robert De Niro is this insane character and does this weird, kind of friggin' goofy accent throughout the entire movie.
I can't remember last time I've seen it.
Max Cady. And it doesn't fall apart. Like, I thought it was, like, suitably tense. And it was like Steven Spielberg convinced Martin Scorsese to do the movie, and Martin Scorsese was supposed to do Schindler's List, and Steven Spielberg was like, how about you do Cape Fear, because it's a commercial... Yeah, and it's like, it's a commercial movie, it'll give you more control over what you want to do, because it'll make money, and then you can do whatever you want, and that's what happened, so, yeah. Yeah,
it made for a good Simpsons Sideshow Bob episode.
Yeah. Funny enough, I just watched The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 5, which makes fun of The Shining.
The Shining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my brother was like, oh, where are some good haunted house movies? I'm like, the only haunted house movie I can think of that's actually any good is the Simpsons episode of Treehouse of Horror.
From the they do The Shining.
Yeah, it's the blood elevator. It's like, that's odd. The blood usually gets off at the second floor.
Second floor.
Yeah. Funny stuff. Man. The Simpsons is so funny. I'm not sure if you've seen the AI Homer Simpson, where it's him on a concert. They're all on TikTok now, but it's like Homer Simpson sings, Muse or whatever. And it's just editing Homer Simpson's voice to sing a Muse song through, like, AI. And it's just kind of, it's amusing. Or he sings Smells Like Teen Spirit.
There's a lot of, like, Simpsons reference of, like, well, not just pop culture, like a lot of things. Like, I remember
The Simpsons did it first.
Yeah, like I remember like not realizing, obviously because I was so young, like the Treehouse of Horror, I think it's the first one, where they do Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven.
Yeah.
Like,
quotes The Raven, Nevermore.
Yeah, Nevermore. Like, I just thought that was like a cool episode, right? And then obviously as I get older, it was just like, yeah, that's like an actual poem.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, it's really good. So there's like stuff like that. And again, like Cape Fear, there's a reference to that.
Because all of their references that they make to pop culture, and there are several. I think you missed the turn because the thing's back there, but whatever.
Oh, I know. I'm going to my friggin' storage unit for work. Frig.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm on autopilot. I was just like Sir John A.
Yeah.
My storage unit.
Yeah.
Shit. Okay. Well, we'll be okay.
Yeah. 15 or 20 minutes. So
Just take Dalton.
Yep.
Don't forget to ring that bell.
Like and subscribe,
Yeah.
or whatever you do on a podcast. Yeah, so what'd you think?
You know what? I think in terms of the length, I didn't feel the 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I want to.
I knew the whole time you were watching a long movie, right?
Yeah, and I think like, and I think if anything that I felt, it was because the movie started at 8:30 and it's like
Yeah.
midnight. So
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
If anything, there. Should we take a picture by you in the box art or something?
Yeah. If they're, they took it down the box art since the pandemic, so we'll have to find like, see if there is one. I'm sorry, which one? Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. So, do you have like a rating out of 10 or anything?
I don't know. I feel like the pacing. I feel like Martin Scorsese gave the whole movie time. It's a long movie, and he gave it its time to breathe. Like
Yeah.
at no point was there anything rushed or
Yeah.
whatever. Like when I leaned over and was just like, we haven't even seen the fucking FBI yet. Like
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit! Like just kind of realized
Mhm.
that, and it's been how long? I don't know. I mean, like I enjoyed it. I don't know if I would feel compelled to watch it again.
Yeah.
You know. I don't know. I feel like a similar way when I watched Oppenheimer in theaters. Like I'm glad that I saw it in theaters, big screen, big epic, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like,
Yeah.
yeah.
What'd you think of Leo in the acting?
I don't want to say I feel like he phoned it in, but I feel like I've seen him do that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like kind of like the bristled Southern accent thing.
Yeah, it felt like a put on a bit.
Yeah,
Same with Robert De Niro, because I was kind of like waiting for them to
did better.
Yeah. But I kind of thought and it's weird because you don't. The thing that I kind of like is that they don't show like what year it is specifically, and they don't show their ages specifically. But I couldn't help but get the nagging feeling of like, okay, I know that she could be something, and maybe that's why they cast her. Like, she could be between. If you told me she was 25, I'd believe it. If you told me she was like 39, I would believe it.
Yeah.
So I wasn't gonna be like, Leo's too old for this role, but it felt like.
Yeah.
This was a role, like, he just got back from the war, and Leo's like 46 in real life and stuff.
Yeah.
And this is the first time where I'm like, Leo definitely looks too old.
Yeah, I feel like definitely the timeline I feel like they left it vague intentionally.
Yeah, because they're like, she died in 39. I'm like, was this from 22 to 32? Like, how long did this go on?
Yeah, and like it was just like, okay, after the war, so it was just like, okay, it's definitely World War I. And then what were the hints?
So they mentioned that it was 1922 at the beginning, when it like around there, because he just got back. So it's like they mentioned 1922, and the only time you hear the years reference that I picked up on was like during the testimonies and stuff like that.
There was that, but also when they went and saw Calvin Coolidge, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, they said Calvin Coolidge?
Yeah,
I thought that it was.
They said Mr. President.
Oh, I thought they
said Coolidge.
Yeah, I get. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just like, okay, we're in the 20s. I'm pretty sure.
So.
But I just wanted like more hints of like.
Yeah. What year the timeline like
the thing Tulsa the black people.
And that happened in like 18. That happened like 100 years ago. So it was like only. That's why I thought it was like. I thought that was a bit much, because it's like, oh. You know, somebody showed it in Watchmen, so we got to show it in everything that takes place in Oklahoma to show we're hip and that we know, you know what I mean? Because it's like, who's watching a movie about the Tulsa Massacre in a movie theater, like, 3 years after it happened? It's just, it seemed like weird to me.
I don't think they were watching a movie about the massacre. They were like the Daily News, because like, they used to do that back in the day. It was like...
But they need the Daily News for something that happened, like, in their place, like, 2 years ago or whatever. Yeah, it was...
I think they used to do that weekly or bi-weekly.
Yeah.
Like, this week in the world.
Yeah, those were the previews. They were, like, it used to be newsreels that played instead of movie trailers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't think that De Niro nailed it. I actually thought...
I think he did the best.
I thought it was okay. His accent was a little weird.
Brendan Fraser was terrible.
Yeah. I thought... I thought it was funny that like what we heard was like exactly true.
Yeah.
Now the thing that really stunted my enjoyment of the picture was I read a Joe Blow movie review, like skimmed it, and and the guy was like, yeah, some people have said that this review was spoilerish. I don't think so. By the way, Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the killers, and it's kind of interesting because like, and it's my problem with the movie is that like I don't even know, like, having seen it, what to think of that, because they have that one reveal like 45 minutes in where it's like, oh, he's the guy who roughed up the private detective and stuff like that, but they never show him kill, and then they
never show him pull the trigger on it.
And I thought that would be like a third act twist or something like that, where it's like, oh, he was the one who killed the sister.
He definitely had a hand in almost all the murders. But he never just
but
pulled
the
trigger.
conversations are so vague in a way that it's like frustrating, and I don't buy that it was like frustrating on purpose. I think that they kind of couldn't decide on the culpability of like, and that's why I thought that Martin Scorsese was just not fitted to the material. Like, I know it's like, oh, he's a master and everything like that, but it's like similar to The Aviator, where it's like, okay, why is he the one telling this story? Like, it felt more like I can see that it maybe being in like Leonardo DiCaprio is a big social issue guy. I can see him really wanting to tell this story. And I can see, like, it started to make sense to me of, like, okay, obviously they had it from, like, the FBI point of view. Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the FBI guys, and then Leo decides, oh, this is too cold this way. We have to tell a more, like, intimate story, so I'll play the husband. And then it came out that it's like, oh, he had aged out of the role and was playing the more mature role, and that, like, it was thought that Jesse Plemons would play the lead. Jesse Plemons, by the way, he's good in the movie.
Yeah, no, he was good.
I'm like, this is the only guy, him and John Lithgow are, like, the both people where I'm like, they are on. Like, they know, like,
they were turned on for it.
Yeah.
But, like, I think it spans over the course of, 15 years, but yet nobody aged.
Yeah,
except for the kids.
Yeah, that bothered me, so I was kind of confused. And
I think that added to some of the confusion. I mean, like, not even like a haircut. It's just like, oh, he looks like he could be older, you know?
Yeah,
like,
is this like a week? Is this a month? Is this a year?
Yeah. Well, there was the one where it was just like the one scene where they're pregnant again. Leo's pregnant again, and it was like maybe like a scene, and then the next scene she's like 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And then the next scene the baby's born. I was like, okay, so we're a year later.
Yeah.
You know,
so this was my issue, is like that. Dare I say, Martin Scorsese, like, I'm a big fan of the movie Little Women that, like, Greta Gerwig directed, and, you know, and of course she did Barbie, same cinematographer as this movie, but anyway, Little Women cuts back and forth frequently in time, and you are never lost. And then, comparatively, Oppenheimer frequently cuts back and forth in time,
lost.
And but you're lost in a way that's like purposeful, like you're being led. Like you're lost, but I didn't find myself confused. Like like it's purposefully obfuscating. This movie just felt like it screwed around a lot, and I had like no idea on like why they would cut back. They would cut, like, they show the private detective being beat up, and then they cut away from it, and then 2 scenes go on, and then they reveal that Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the guys who roughed him up, and then they cut back to it again in the court case, and you're like, okay, when in time did this happen? Did it happen the first time I saw it? Were they cutting back to it the second time? And the timeline was so vague that it was just confusing, and I'm like, okay, do you even know the way you want to tell this story? And that frustrated me.
I think also, like, the subtitle of, like, the birth of the FBI is, like, slightly misleading in the sense that, like, if they didn't have that subtitle, I wouldn't have been waiting for it. Like, when the FBI showed up, they were just like, yeah, we're from the Bureau of Investigation, and Leo's kind of like, the what? And he's like, the Bureau of Investigation, we're here to check out the murders or whatever. At no point was it just like, what's the Bureau of Investigation?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this new thing that the president has invented. You know, we're trying something new. It's like, oh, this is the start of the FBI. Like, at no point did they refer to this being a new thing. Like, if you didn't know the history of the FBI, which, like, I don't, then I just would have thought that that was normal.
Yeah. Well, the thing is that, like, I feel like, you know, exposition gets a bad rap. And, like, I feel like Martin Scorsese was like, let's have this be lived in. Let's not have there be any exposition. So there was literally nothing explained ever about anything, about anybody's relationship to somebody. They mention, like, Leonardo DiCaprio's brother a few times, and, like, but you're not even clear, weirdly, who his, like, that he's his brother.
Yeah.
Until, like, 45 minutes into the movie.
Like, he's referenced a whole bunch, and it's like, oh, that guy. That's the brother.
And that was my big problem, is that, like, they reference a bunch of names, and it's like, okay, guy who we haven't seen on screen in an hour is important.
Or just that one flashback.
Yeah, it's like, show us a fucking flashback, Marty. What's your deal?
Yeah.
Like, I know you're trying to be clever and restrained, but,
and the thing is, again, to say, like, you know, Killers of the Flower Moon, okay, that obviously points to this story is about the native people, which is fine, and then to say the birth of the FBI,
which is to be clear, in the book, that's the book's title, it's not the movie's title, they dropped that subtitle. They, like, lured it in because people and financiers and stuff were like, and remember, that was, like, the story that they were gonna tell. Like, they had a script that was totally set about the FBI. Yeah, and then all of a sudden, Leonardo DiCaprio was like, I'm gonna switch roles, and I'm gonna play the husband, and it's gonna be a husband story now. And then people initially took that as, like, oh, Jesse Plemons is going to play the lead and Leo's going to be supporting. That's huge. Leo, good for him. Changing of the guard.
Taking a step back.
Yeah, taking a step back, changing of the guard. Like, times are changing.
And it's like, no, I'm still the star.
Yeah, it's like, no, he's still the lead, and he just kind of mopes around and kind of, like, he does nothing the entire movie.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like his ending. You're kind of like, I'm almost kind of like waiting, like, how does it end for him? Because, you know, testify against Robert De Niro, no, don't testify, and then ultimately he's just like, yeah, like, you know, I got this pain in my gut, so it's obviously like guilt and anxiety, and it's like, okay, so he does the right thing, and it's like, all right, okay, sure, let's go with that, and then at the end, his wife is just like, yeah, so what did you do to the insulin? And he's like, well, what do you mean? And it was like, what was in it? And you can tell he's like bothered, and he's like, just insulin, and you know, she was just like, I know you lied. Yeah, she knows, and she walks away, and then they divorce, and I'm thinking to myself, so Leo did the only thing to save himself, save his skin, and he comes up empty-handed.
Well, but he lives longer than she does. Like they mentioned, like he died at the age of 87, and
no, that was Robert De Niro's character, Hal.
Yeah,
he died at 87.
Well, they mentioned Leo's character, whatever, living until, like, 1947. I'm like, is that much long?
She died, like, 36.
39, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, 39? Was this in 32? Like, because and the fact that they
how far removed are we from this?
Them telling it like a prairie home companion. Like, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, oh, okay, like, this radio play is going to be, like, the end of the movie. And it's, like, their way of ending it, because it's like, oh, the white people told this story for so long, and that kind of thing. And then I've kind of thought, I'm like, they have the Schindler's List ending where it cuts to modern day, and it's like them dancing in the field. It's like, oh, it's like in Schindler's List where everybody, like, walks to the grave, but it's in real time as, like, an acknowledgement of where we are today about this story kind of thing. And I just kind of thought, like, there was nothing in this movie that I saw that I haven't seen before in, like, other Scorsese movies or other movies in general. And for, like, the editing, I thought that it was like, okay, Marty, you don't have it anymore. Like, I don't think he's lost it, but I just don't think he's ever trying anything new. I thought about, I didn't think it was new, and I also thought that, like, there are people who do it better than you now. Like, just like with the intercutting, I thought, like, I think Christopher Nolan does intercutting better, because you never, like, lose yourself emotionally in a Christopher Nolan movie. Like, you're never, like, I never felt zoomed in on Killers of the Flower Moon. The whole time I'm like, I'm in the theater watching with you. Yeah. I was never, like, wrapped up in the story. I thought,
locked in,
I felt Leo's jaw clenched the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's like, it felt like him and De Niro were playing dress up, and I was just thinking, like, you know, like, if Hollywood wasn't what it was today, and you might roll your eyes at this, but like, because I saw Fair Play, I'm like, Alden Ehrenreich is like a Southern guy in real life. If he had been in this story, and instead of Robert De Niro, it was like Joe Pesci, who has like a lot more menace, but can also be a lot more calm, like in The Irishman, I'm like, this would have been a better movie if it was like Alden Ehrenreich and Joe Pesci, which I know is like just a weird thing to say. But I was just kind of like, I didn't know what to think of De Niro's character. I didn't find him that threatening as he like used to be as an actor.
I think maybe there would have been some usefulness to like at least like a deep-seated, like, you don't want to cross him.
Yeah, the personification of evil. And I'm like man,
if there was
it's
just
like you don't want to fuck with Joe Pesci. And Joe Pesci is like 150th Cherokee or something like that. So I thought like he would have been like, I know he's like super old and like short, but it's like he does like Joe Pesci. There is so much menace with that guy.
I almost thought that like Robert
and
De Niro
he's funnier.
I almost thought that Robert De Niro gave up at the end when he's in the jail cell.
Yeah, I'm like, aren't you gonna fight? Where's your big scene?
Like you know, exactly. Like I thought like De Niro, because he was just like, you got to stay away from my family and blah blah. And he's like, don't do this. The government, they think they're gonna take care of you. And he's just like, no, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. And I'm thinking to myself like, okay, De Niro's losing. It's slipping away, and I'm waiting for him to like grab Leo by the collar.
Yeah.
And be like, you can't do this. You know what I mean? And like try to slap him around or something to like show that he's losing his grip. He was just like, you're gonna regret it. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's it.
And then I also felt like,
to be afraid of this guy.
Yeah. And I also like, and it's interesting because I'm like, oh my gosh, this is like, going to Montreal with that guy. Except the whole time, that's how the Osage felt. It's like where they're slowly being like poisoned away, or him being like, yeah, you sign this thing, which like if anything happens to you,
but nothing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But sign it anyways.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, I don't know what to think of that scene. Like, we know that Robert De Niro is evil. Like,
he's the bad guy.
Yeah,
sure.
When they're setting the
mastermind,
the farm on fire, and it's like they're literally in hell and surrounded by flames and blah blah blah.
Yeah, but I just never felt the terror.
Yeah, it's like this is about people who did horrible stuff, and Marty approached it with like a simple way of life, the way that he does like everything, where it's like casually, which is great for explaining that like murder is like a very small, ugly thing that brings, violence doesn't ever bring the catharsis we want it to. Like, it's supposed to be unsatisfying and stuff. But I felt like, yeah, I'd seen that before just in The Irishman, and like it said nothing new, and it was just kind of like, I felt like a lot of people gave this movie good reviews because it felt important, not because they felt it was good.
That doesn't get you any points.
Because all the points together, like, you have De Niro, you have Leonardo DiCaprio.
Checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah, you have Martin Scorsese, you have important books, you have a good screenwriter, you have, like, the top of the top, Jacqueline West, Rodrigo Pietro. Like, these are all people who do top-of-the-line work. Yeah. And yet, if somebody who were less experienced and, like, but were more passionate about it, and were younger, like, they would have made a better movie. Even like a less talented group of people could have made a better movie from this. Like, does that make sense to you in any way?
I mean, I guess if they put like more heart into it or something.
I just didn't think that Scorsese was close to the material really at all. I didn't really
think, like,
feel
with
it.
all the names and all the boxes that they checked, this should have been better.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, like, I wasn't, like, frustrated. I wasn't, like, they screwed up. But I was just kind of like, okay, that was, like, the lowest possible end of what it could be. Yeah. Like, that movie cost $200 million. It could have been done for, like, 60. Like, that's what I felt.
It all took place in the same places.
Yeah. It was, like, literally one street and then a bunch of interiors. And it was only because it starred all these people. And then they probably spent a lot of money doing the FBI version of the story, scraped together a lot of costs, and then probably started from scratch, like, completely. But, like, yeah.
It's not like they were traveling all over the South.
You know,
they had to have, like, Louisiana sets and Texas sets. Like, they probably could have filmed this all in like one area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even when De Niro was just like, oh, I'm going to Fort Worth for the cattle competition or whatever, and then they like, you know, take some pictures in front of hay bales.
Yeah.
Like that's, you know, oh, Texas, okay, whatever. Yeah. You know, like.
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious on a podcast on TikTok where these two guys were like crapping on Martin Scorsese for like what he said about Marvel movies, which I honestly thought was ironic because that's so played out at this point.
Yeah.
And I comment,
which I think is true.
Sure, I completely agree with Martin Scorsese on it, but my comment was like splitting the difference of like, you know what, like they're the same type of movie. Like this movie and the Marvel movie, they're both like $200 million Hollywood movies. They're more expensive than they should be.
And they're just disposable after you watch them.
Yeah, that like both those people are making the same thing. They have like, I don't feel the connection to the material. I get that they probably care about it, but it's like, it's just, here's an important movie that you should watch.
We spent a lot of money on.
That we spent a lot of money on, that was put together by these trillion-dollar companies that are like feeding you content. Like, yeah. Sure, it's important to Martin Scorsese, but it's like content to Apple. And like, they both left me feeling indifferent.
Of the two, like between like movies like this
and Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Sure, and like superhero movies, I'd rather watch this kind of movie because like superhero movies are for like soy boys.
Yeah. that word, what does that word mean, by the way? Soy boy? Because
I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But it means guys that like don't drink regular dairy milk and they drink soy milk because I guess there's like some
tough.
sort of like chemical in soy milk that makes men weak or something.
Well, I guess I'd choose the superhero movie because you know I wouldn't want to watch that again. But like, I don't know. To me, I'd give it out of 10. What would you give it?
I don't know, like a 5
it's
or
tough.
6. 5
I know, like it doesn't.
I don't want to give it the stupid.
I don't want to give it it's like
no.
a 5 out of. No, I mean I don't want to give it a low score because it doesn't.
Yeah,
like there was nothing. But I honestly feel it's a 5 out of 10. But it's like a satisfying 5.
A solid 5, yeah, satisfying 5.
Yeah. Sure. Can you imagine when I write my solid 5 out of 10 Martin Scorsese picture?
Yeah, because like it would be, I think it'd be insulting to be less than 5, but I'm not putting it in like
but insulting
8, 9, 10.
But insulting to who?
To the movie, because
to the Osage County.
No, not that. Like they put in a lot of like, oh, they spent a lot of money
for them. Yeah.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of production value. Like, and to say that movie is bad, it's just kind of like, man, if that movie is bad, like shit, what's good?
But isn't it? You know, people say the worst
it's a good story.
Sure. It's just I didn't told in a boring way. That's the thing that I thought.
Story told in a boring way. Yeah.
Because I thought about like the difference between Martin Scorsese and Steven Spielberg is that like Steven Spielberg hasn't lost his touch at all. He directs like just as well as he did before, but the stories that he picks aren't like super interesting to the public. Whereas Martin Scorsese hasn't lost his edge. He still picks stories like this that are important and vital that do capture people's attention, but his execution is kind of tired.
Wait, why is this story vital?
It's just because it's like about genocide, and it's about it's about genocide. You could argue the patriarchy and just like white murdering, Indians and stuff. But like, I didn't feel that it was like, that it committed to that idea of like storytelling. Like that's like, you could look at it of like,
when I hear you say vital, I think like everyone should see this.
I think that the material is vital. Like it's material in the right hands. That's like, it's material in the right hands. That's important. Like, I think it's like like you said, an important story. I don't think any movie is like vital. Like there's no movie where I'd sit down and be like, you have to see this movie. I don't think of that for anything. I think that the material is important. Like it's an important historical thing to know that like a bunch of white people killed a bunch of Indians, on land because that story has been told forever.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's vital. Do I think the movie is vital? Absolutely not. Like I feel no change from when we were in this driveway 4 hours ago.
Yeah.
But like, 5 out of 10. Thanks for
5. 5.
Thanks for coming to the movie with me.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So ends the podcast.